వెంకటేశం ననాతో ననాద సదా వెంకటేశం స్మరామి స్మరామి హరే వెంకటేశ ప్రసీద ప్రసీద ప్రియం వెంకటేశ ప్రియచ్చ ప్రియచ్చ அடியார்கள் வாழ அரங்கநகர் வாழ சடகோபம் தண்டமிழ்நூல் வாழ கடல் சூழ்ந்த மண்ணுலகம் வாழ சினிமியானந்த சுவாமிகளே இன்னும் ஒரு நூற்றாண்டிரும்.
Friends, here these days, 9 or 10 days, our discussion or attempt at study would be not anything particularly outside us, not an objective science. We are trying to give a pause to our life and watch at ourselves in action. Not ourselves as an individual entity, but an individual entity alive, living and functioning in the society. No living being can live without action. There is no choice given to us. So long as life lives in the individual or in the existing organism, whether it is unicellular or highly sophisticated, a genius or a saint or a sage, no living organism, plant, animal and human, it is a universal truth. No living organism can ever remain without work. He has to respond to the external stimuli. How we will respond will depend upon the sophistication of our equipments. The outer world constantly is trying to bombard into each one of us, providing endless challenges, problems, situations. This the world is supplying us. We need not hunt for them. In these great challenges, when they repeatedly reach any single individual, ordinary man gets flabbergasted. He gets exhausted, fatigued. He, not knowing this game, struggles unnecessarily, becomes tired, weary, unhappy. But somehow or other he lives through his little span of life, grows old, and when he looks back, he sees nothing but the weeds that he has gathered, some money, a home, a wife, 2-3 children. This even the cattle can do it, animals do it, birds do it. What is the great glory of being a human being with a rational intellect? You and I have come here as a roof and crown of things, and yet what are you gaining out of it? Don't hoodwink ourselves that, oh, scientific development, political, economic, social developments, all of them, if you analyze them all, have they not, really speaking, brought more tension, stress and strain to us? We have learned to congratulate ourselves on these scores because there is nothing else to congratulate ourselves. We don't want to accept that we have been defeated, that we have been made suckers, that in our attempt to conquer nature, what you have done is becoming more and more an utter slave to nature. Is it not? As the Hindu temple person said, that we have all come here for freedom. What freedom? Political, economic, social freedoms. These are they not all outside freedom? Are you free? Am I free? Ask yourself honestly the question. When temper comes or lust rises, when passions rise in your mind, are you master of yourself there? Tell your mind, keep quiet. Are we not all slaves? I am not talking political, economic. Slaves in ourselves, by ourselves. That is my habit. This is my tendency. What can I do? I am helpless. Are we not? Are we not being whipped up by these endless physical, mental and intellectual demands? Are we using our equipments, or are we today slave of our own equipments? I don't want you to accept anything that I am saying here. My color of the cloth is my choice. It is not to hoodwink you, that I am a reverend and thou shalt believe. You should not. If you are coming here only to believe me, you are wasting the time. Think for yourself. Vedanta is a line of thought given to us to explore. Ultimately, you have to realize it in yourself. By believing me, you are not gaining anything for yourself, nor are you giving any compliment to me. Think. So that the 10 days talks would be a lot of 2/3 is your job, 1/3 is my job. My job is only like a traffic policeman, just to show you this way. And you go. I am not supposed to push your car. I make it convenient for you in dangerous junctions. The other traffic is held and you are given a free way. This is all. I can only point out. You have to think. And if you are not ready to think for yourself, as I am talking, no heights will not be climbed. You will expect me to give a free packet of unfoldment or spiritual solace, which is impossible. None of you came up in the evolutionary process from the fish or unicellular organism to this mammal and human, not by somebody gave you a packet. Biology clearly shows how we struggled each one against all odds and marched ahead. So my job is only to point out, and that pointing also, my friends, are not mine. That is why the textbook is indicated, the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. There we have got these ideas. I am trying to bring to your attention those ideas. Invite your independent thinking. And while we are thinking, as I too am a child of your age, your era, with your own knowledge or education, I think I know what are the pitfalls in that thinking, and I can help you now and then by giving you a hand. I'm trying to tell you the genesis of these talks. Don't come and sit down just to listening as you generally listen to lectures. It is a whole course of a treatment for a new harmonious blend of thinking. As I said, no living organism can ever remain without activity, even for a moment. The quality of the activity certainly will depend upon the improvement, the efficiencies, the proficiencies of the equipment. In the universe we find the stone, the minerals, the plant, the animal, and the human. In the stone or mineral area, there is the form, but it has no mind yet manifested. In the plant form of life, we find not only a form, but also the beginnings of a mind. In the animal, not only the form, but a well-developed, fully developed mind with all its instincts and impulses that nature provides for its survival. In my talk also, whenever I pause, don't sit down there and wonder what is the trouble with the Swami. No doubt I am a heart patient. So don't sit down there and worry for the Swami. Doesn't deserve it. Don't waste your time. I am giving you time for you to think and make it your own. When it comes to the level of the human, we have not only a form, not only a fully developed, instinct-filled mind of an animal. Let us understand it. Mind with all the instincts and impulses of just an animal. But we have got plus quantity, a rational thinking intellect which can logically think and scientifically conclude, determine things. Because of this rational intellect, to a large extent, we can control, direct, and apply intelligently our own instincts and impulses. The plant, the stone, no action. In the case of the vegetables or the plant, there are responses. To sunlight and water vapor, there is a response. We don't call it as an action. We don't say that the mango tree is manufacturing mangoes. Plant production, nothing. It stays there. Where it stands, grows fatter and fatter. And it doesn't know that the fruits are coming. And when the fruits are coming, you can take it. It doesn't matter. Only it is sensitive to water vapor and sunlight. When it comes to the animal, under the impulse and instincts of it, it does activity in the world outside, always controlled by, dictated by its natural instincts. So you are a decent guy, very intelligent, cultured man, and you have got a trained dog and you are going along the road. The dog following you faithfully. But when it finds the first lamppost, it smells. But then since you are walking very fast, it runs with you. But by the time the third lamppost comes, the dog must stop and do what all dogs should do. Your cultural attitude. You say, what have you done, doggy? Should you do that? He says, I don't know, I felt like doing, I did it. Honest. If the dog can talk to you, what will we say? I don't know, I just felt like and I did it. In the case of the dog, we excuse him because it's an instinct. It barked, it jumped, bit the calf muscle of your own brother-in-law, let us say. Inwardly you are happy, but outside. And you ask the dog, he is not anybody else, he is my wife's brother, why did you? The dog says, I am sorry, I felt like, and I did it. Animals, they don't know, they can't judge. It's all instincts and impulses. If man also says, unfortunately, many of us, if anybody goes and asks you, why did you do it? I don't know, I felt like doing it, I did it. And this is considered to be freedom. It is not a freedom to sink back again to the animal level, to hold back to our dignity as a human being. And when the instincts and impulses come, intelligently to control and direct its application in the world outside is the privilege of man. Thus, if the plant kingdom is only responding, sensations, the animals we call it as action. It's an animal act, it's an action of an animal. But in the case of man, since his activities are controlled and consistently applied in an intelligent direction, it is called as work. See? So in the memories of the past knowledge that I have stored in myself, experience of me and vicarious experience of others, that wisdom, with that wisdom I study the situation or the problem in front of me and intelligently apply guide my instincts and impulses and act intelligently to remold the present situation to a covetable, beautiful future. This is called work. It is by work that man has progressed to the modern age of pleasure, of comforts, of promises of comfort and pleasures. We are no more in the caveman. We have progressed politically, economically, socially, culturally, in art, literature. All these are they not all intelligent application of action consistently in order to reach a definite, beautiful state? The present conditions and situations are to be reorganized and arranged, and for that you put forth the effort. Thus, intelligent action is called work. We are all working people. Indians have come here to work. New Indians will come searching work. All of us are working. Working ladies and working gentlemen, work, 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 work. In all that work, and a large quantity of work, large scale productions, with a scientific understanding, the work pattern also have changed. And all together now we have come to a point where every worker, wherever he may be, in whatever level of work that they are doing, alas, all of them are tired, exhausted, weary, disgusted, dejected, despondent. And a state has come that in their confusion they don't know how to get some peace, and therefore they take drugs. Even industrial executives can't sleep without pills. Is it worthwhile? You created millions in the bank. Congratulations. This is the present, this your fifth wife. Glory. And all the children, I don't know where they went, but government is looking after them. Great. 5-bedroom house, 3-car house. Glorious. I congratulate you all. What I am asking is, what did you get out of it? Conversion of large quantity of different types of food into fecal matter is not for which you have come into this world, isn't it? Just to rub flesh with flesh, varieties of flesh, okay? Is it for that you have come here? Then why don't you become an animal, 4-legged, with a perfect tail, and go about? That is sufficient for all those pleasures. I am not saying that you should not have money. I didn't say that. You should not have a comfortable house. All the pleasures of the world. But are these only for which you have come? At the end of it, alas, if the man is happy, he is an intelligent being, I admit. In this luxurious environment, poor man sits and elaborately weeps. 24 hours, 365 days. For happiness and relaxation, run for weekend and come back weekend. Why? Why? Work is necessary. None of us can remain without work. Work is the signature of life on the living organism. Only after death I can say that I am no more working. Till death everybody will have to work. But in that work, while working, don't you think that there must be a philosophy of work? How I can, along with the work and the material gains that I may gain for myself and for the community, while doing all that, don't you think that it is also necessary that I must develop my equipoise, my balance, my inner joy, my freedom? If those things are not provided by the fields of work, we are just slaves, sweating unnecessarily. For what? For wages, meaning for food, clothing, shelter. Better food, better clothing, better shelter. More food, more clothing, more shelter. Until at last you are buried under food, clothing, shelter. So don't you think that? What I am now talking is one of the major problems in the modern world. They have reduced management into a science. There are techniques how to manage others. There are techniques. But alas, they are only techniques. They have no philosophy of work. Management is getting our work done through others. This is called management. I am not creating it from my head. It is all printed in the beautiful art paper, heavy books with heavy covers. These are all textbooks. To learn which Indians come here. MBA. There, what is it teaching? Management. The science of management is a management of getting work done from, getting your work done through others. Great. And the techniques are there. But unfortunately, one idea we forget. It is me and others. Both of us are alive and human beings. Therefore, apart from the techniques, apart from the various physical, technical knowledge or dexterity of the hands and fingers, to the poor laborer, the worker, the one who is functioning in any field, he has a mind with its emotions. He has got intellect with its visions. Are we providing around the world When I say we, I don't mean this small little room. Around the world, have we got any concept of the philosophy of work? This philosophy of work, how in and through your work, you fulfill your obligatory duties in the world outside, towards yourself and towards others. But while thus functioning in the world, there is something that you can gain to yourself. Something that you can gain for yourself. An inner poise, a balance, a certain mastery over ourselves, plus a certain amount of mastery among the happenings around. How can I thus grow in my inward nature, in my inner poise and comfort? This philosophy of work, how work itself can be, when properly performed, can become a handmaiden for your spiritual progress. This is the theme that is discussed in the 3rd chapter, that we are going to take it as seriously, verse by verse. In order to do so, in order to bring these philosophical truths of the Vedic period into practical application in everyday life, that the Gita was conceived. Gita has not a single new idea to give which was not already been in our Vedic culture. But as time passes on, the old scriptural textbooks become incompetent to serve the modern generations from time to time. As the society and its pattern changes, where the words of the old textbook do not ring true in our ears. Shakespearean drama has gone. Why? As a poet and as a dramatist, he is one of the best in the world. But today, if there is a drama, a Shakespearean drama, and truthful to his words, the words are coming out on the stage, very many of us sitting there will not grasp the full depth. Literature has changed, or language has changed. And this is as it should be, very logical. Each one of us is a changing, dynamic entity. We are growing. We are not stationary, stagnant. All of us put together is called the community or society or the world or the people. Since every one of us is changing, that living society is not a mere arrangement, it's not an inert thing. Community or society is a living organism, wherein every one of us is a cell, as it were. And when we are all changing, that social or communal standpoint also must change. Each one of us change in our physical demands, in our emotional expectations, and also in our intellectual vision. I'm not taking the spiritual hunger now. Thus each one of us is changing. And there are periods in history when a larger part of the community has already changed from the old traditional demands and emotional satisfactions or intellectual vision. There is a complete breakup of the community. It is a part of its progress or growth when the old promises or the old scriptures may not completely satisfy their demands. Man is impatient to find his peace or joy or happiness. If religion or scripture cannot provide it, but politics or economics can provide it, we will leave religion and gravitate towards the other activities, because the most important thing for us is our security and our sense of comfort or happiness. At all such times, one mighty master or the other appears on the horizon of the community. And they reinterpret, not give anything new, of the old in a language and in a pattern that the modern generation can understand, and these are called moments of revival, renaissance. One of the periods of great renaissance of Hinduism was indicated or symbolized by the Bhagavad Gita, where the old Vedic text and their deep significances were too much for the average man. The population has increased, therefore competitions have become more hard or more severe, and in that rat race, each one is trying to acquire more from the society because of sense of insecurity. And a state came of a community, the mental state of the community came to a point where they said that each one for himself. Power politics. Acquire, aggrandize, enjoy, revel. Don't worry about others. What is there others to do? Nobody has helped me. Why should I help anybody? It's my luck or my efficiency that I have got what I have got. I am going to enjoy. This kind of a thing came, called the materialistic values of life. In the human history, we find that at certain periods of history, the materialism goes higher and higher, suppresses and almost destroys the spiritual and the moral value. And in this indulgence or immorality and corruptions of the world, a million varieties, when they intensify, the world slowly lifts itself into, slips into threat of war. And if it is not still coming back to the real values, they really discover themselves in the pure theater of mutual disastrous destruction. This psychological point in the flow of history has been exploited by Vyasa, and he built up the story of the Kauravas and the Pandavas. The Kauravas, large in number, materialistic value, well equipped, and the Pandava forces, the moral people who want the good and the noble and who would like to surrender themselves to the will of the Lord and then live in love and affection and tenderness and care. Those values, the positive values, they were represented by fewer people, less well equipped. And these two parties, representing the two values of life, the materialistic values of life and the spiritual values of life, they have clashed or are clashing, and this is called the Mahabharata war. Maha, great, Bharat, in Bharat, it happened in India. War, the great war. It has nothing to do with historicity, please. Now in this great clash, one of the champions or even the commander-in-chief of the Pandava forces, Arjuna, whom the public elected or selected him to guide them because of his beautiful performances earlier, his archery, mastery over it. Because of those tendencies in him, the public had the confidence that here is the right person, and he was elected as a commander-in-chief. Krishna, who decided that I shall not take weapons, weapons, because both of you cousins are dear to me. But when a whole country or a community is involved in anything, however moral or immoral it may be, whatever be your opinion about it, you cannot stand apart from it because you are a part and an aspect of the community. Unfortunate. They can't understand my point of view, but you try to involve yourself in it. Now Krishna wouldn't fight. He would take up weapons in hand. Now how can he help or join in this great war? I don't think there was any Red Cross at that time, or else that would have been all right. So Krishna thought for a moment and decided, or approached the commander-in-chief and said, "Sir, I know driving well. Can I be your driver?" And Arjuna also thought, yes, the driver is very important, because the driver can drive the jeep straight to the near the enemy and say, you know. Nowadays it's very big, he's saboteur. See, here is a man, Krishna, who has been his friend, pal and buddy for the last about 30 years, and he has known mutually through and through. He's a family friend, intelligent guy, and who have been always helping him whenever there is a problem. He said, "All right, you be my charioteer." In those days it was chariot, today it is jeep. So he's a driver. Both the armies are aligned. The appointed day, the appointed time. It's a total civil war. A critical hour in the history of the whole country or the whole community. The first arrow has not yet been shot. That is all. First bullet, not been shot. Expecting. Since there was no newspaper at that time, there was no common hysteria, but they were all just there standing. The smell of blood in the nostrils of everyone. Man has sunk to the lowest level, ready to cut the throat of another human being shamelessly. This is the time, mind you. At that time, Arjuna suddenly steps on to the jeep and says, "Krish, let us go." He might not have said, "Hey Krishna" and all that, because pal, Krishna, who must have been sitting a little far away, must have flicked his half-smoked cigarette and got into the jeep. Because army officer, so you can't smoke. So on four-wheel, it moved. Moved where? From there, array. Here is Arjuna's car coming, jeep coming, into the no man's land between the two armies. Because Arjuna wanted to see who are the people who are standing against such a righteous cause. When he had this reconnaissance visit and moved and saw, he saw there what? From his own personal egocentric standpoint, they are my cousins, my kith, my kin, my teacher, my elders are all standing there. How can I then fight with my people? Whenever a problem is seen as I and my, your efficiency goes. Everyone. The greatest surgeon cannot take his knife and do a successful, simple operation upon his 10-year-only child, 10-year-old. He can't. He takes the knife and starts thinking, suppose it happens, suppose it happens, suppose it, and it will happen. Because he was thinking only, suppose it will happen. If you and I are lying down, he is confident. I am worldwide known operation. It is a simple operation. Never mind. He does it because he has got confidence. So without scientific detachment, you can never have efficiency in any piece of work. Right. Arjuna collapses. Seeing that, Arjuna gets into a mental confusion. And whenever the mind is confused, intellect will not work. And he did not know what to do. Should I fight or not? Krishna, I can't judge. An army officer who's trained all his lifetime to face crises and situations and come to a right judgment and act upon it. There's no time for a committee to reconsider and inquire, because war, things happen every hour. He has to come, judge, decide and act upon it. This is what he had been trained. And he has come suddenly in an inner personality breakup, that he came to recognize that I am not me. I who could judge everything. Now a situation has come. I don't know whether it is nobler to win the war or nobler to get vanquished. Whenever we are thus in a state of collapse, in our unnecessary mental imagination, we will magnify our problem. And this magnified, delusory picture of the problem frightens us out of our own capabilities and capacities. This must have happened to everyone. It is a trick of the human mind. It is a universal problem of human personality. It has nothing to do with that time, that war, in Arjuna. Arjuna represents every one of us. Become a little egoistic or selfish or individualistic, and you are a little anxious to pass the exam with A. You immediately find that you get B minus. A little more anxiety, your name may not be there in the list at all. Not that you have not studied, you have studied everything, but the anxiety. In an interview, if you are over anxious, and that is what generally happens, mind imagines. A young man had a good job and you applied, you had no hopes at all, but you got a card. Monday, 17th of June, come such a place for interview. Now imagination started. I will get the job. $2,000. In 3 years' time, I can have my own house. I will have it there. Then I will marry Mary. And only 2 children. Whether boy or girls, it doesn't matter, only 2. Healthy ones. I'll send them to real school, educate them. Now you go on imagining until at last your name is called. When you go for interview, do you know the risk that you are taking? If I don't get the job, I will not have the house. I will not marry Mary. My 2 children will be in trouble. You go on imagining. Hi. And the responsibility becomes terrible. Such a great responsibility on your shoulders, weighing you down and flattening you. And the interviewer, generally they are an old man in the center and 2 young men on both sides. I don't know why that is there in the whole world. The old man never uses the double focal length, so he does it like that. So reading glasses here, and then he looks at you. When you look at that, any man who looks at you like that, I tell you, within a short time, all your self-confidence goes away. I don't know why. Most probably my teacher had it. I don't know, that is my case. If you look at me for some time through the glasses, my self-confidence goes, I think I am not all right. What is something? He looks at him and he asks the first question. Excuse me, gentlemen, your name? Invariably, the first in the university. His application form is right there. They are just warming up to ask you questions. They have already found that you are first in the university. He's a right type of genius, little boy with a little training, probably he can make our company. They are all thinking positively about you. And he casually asks, excuse me, your name? to confirm that this is the man and this is the application form. The boy is so flabbergasted. He says 22. So the old man looks at the two youngsters on both sides and he says, I didn't ask the age. What's your name? Male. No, Swamiji, no sir, I came from the East Coast. Who asked you all that? He is thinking of Mary and the two children and the house to be maintained, which the house he has never purchased. Mary is just a Miss Mary somewhere and the two children are still with God, not yet emerged out. He is worrying about that. This happens to everyone. If I pass the exam, then I get the promotion. And if I don't pass the examination, I will not be getting it. And I will have to go back home, to India, back again. Then they are utterly despair. Arjuna started imagining, became mentally confused and confounded. He tells Krishna, please, may I sit down or lie down on the floor of the jeep? Because I think I can't stand shivering. Commander-in-Chief. Shivering. Krishna never says of that. He said, oh, if you can't stand up, it is better that you lie down or else you may fall. This is common sense. When you can't stand up, always, immediately lie down. Safe. He lies down there and he says, Krishna, I can't hold the bow in my hand, it is falling away. I am feeling horripilation all over the body, a burning sensation in the skin. I can't think properly. I can't judge anything. May I borrow your intelligence for a moment? All these are symptoms of hysteria. In the modern psychological textbook you study, and number 1, 2, 3, 4, they give you the diagnosis or the symptoms, and then you read the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, you find the same thing said there. To this hysterical person who has grown or got into the hysteria because of his mental rupture and become dejected, despondent, he knows that I as a Kshatriya or as Arjuna must hit them where it will give them, it will really pain them. I must, but dare not to do it. Thus a tension or a conflict has come in the mind, in which everything is dissipated. Many of his words are soaked in cowardism. He talks as though he is a coward. His entire personality changed from the self-confident, heroic, a man of action on the field of work. He has become a nauseating person. And he doesn't want to work. And in all such situations, man's only choice is that I want to run away from the situation. If you fail in your marriage, run away. If you fail in your business, run away. Everywhere, whenever we are faced with many, many challenges and we find that it is a rather difficult and a tough proposition to stand, you generally do is run away. Arjuna also wanted to drop out. He said, let us go to the Himalayas, because I have heard from our Hindu textbooks that meditation is the highest. This war is not the right place to meditate, so. And who is asking? Commander-in-Chief is asking. To whom? Driver. Where? In the war front. How dare Krishna say, no, shut up. He could have said it in the palace because of his friendship. But in the war, in the army, in the war front, discipline. So then poor Krishna master is in a lower status. Arjuna, the prince, Pandava, higher position, a status, power, knowledge, wisdom. And here is only a driver. Now when you can understand, a driver wants to make the master understand something. It is not very easy. It has to be very, very logical. You cannot say there that thou shalt do so, or else to hell I shall throw you. To Arjuna? Go and prepare the hell, I will just remove you now. The head will be removed immediately. What are you talking? So then you have to talk in a very, very logical fashion. Very appealing. Step by step the thoughts must be shown. And the conclusion comes up. This is the style in which the whole of the Bhagavad Gita is written. No authoritative statement anywhere. Everything that he comes to a point is only a conclusion arrived at. Along with his pal and buddy, step by step, holding him by the shoulders as it were, he guides his intellect to think in a process of logical analysis and comes to certain definite conclusions. And when the conclusions arrive, the student or the intelligent student, the skeptic, has no other go but accept. If you are an honest skeptic, will not accept an idea just because somebody said it. He wants to know why, how, when. He poo-poos your idea. Now you start from the elementary stage onwards. Step by step by step. Is this not true? If this is true, is not this possible? If that is true, is not the fourth point? Right. That is why I said. Oh, that way. Now I understand. It's called an honest skeptic. There are some people who are posing as skeptic. Don't talk to them. They are not able to follow even the logical third step or the fourth step of thinking. They just say that no, because it is a tremendous responsibility to live an honest life. It's a responsibility. They don't want to take up the responsibility. They want to live on the animal level only, even though biologically a human, anatomically a human, alas, psychologically still an animal. To them, philosophy is very difficult. Spiritual unfoldment, there is no meaning to them. It is only those who have become humane in the mind, sharpened their wits, have trained themselves to think logically and come to their own conclusions. It is addressing such people that this Bhagavad Gita is given out. And that is the reason why it is very, very popular, or growing in its popularity in the modern times, because the presentation is so beautifully scientific. When I am now saying, you need not accept it, but with a question mark, file it in your mind. With a question mark means, we will reconsider. As the text is being taken, then you will appreciate that, how it is logically doing. In order to understand the spiritual significance or the human inner personality of ours, a little introduction is necessary, extra introduction is necessary, which I will try to give tomorrow. Every one of us have got hang-ups. These hang-ups are called, for the Hindus, vasanas. That is, everyone at this moment, every one of us is a product of our past. Is it not? I am a drunkard. Why? It is not that I came from the mother's womb with a bottle in hand and asked Mummy, glass and ice please. I didn't ask that, isn't it? Didn't come with a cigarette. Mom, light. But today, cannot give it up. Why? How did you learn it? Action by action, thought by thought. I have gathered them all. None of you came from the mother's womb as a doctor or an engineer. You went to the university, studied it, colored your thoughts in that direction. A lot of independent thinking. Until at last, today you are what you are. Good, bad or indifferent. God never made good nor bad nor indifferent ones. When from Him the world came, everything that came must be perfect. But in our long life of our evolution, in our march in time, we gathered many things to ourselves, and these are what we call as vasanas. So long as vasanas are there, our actions can be only an echo. Present action would be an echo, an expression, a fulfillment of a past vasana. Don't think that, Swamiji, this is a very, very, very vague. It is not. Don't keep your scientific knowledge outside the hall and walk there. Spiritual knowledge, subjective knowledge, is an extension, unimaginable, not imaginable for the modern man, an extension of all sides. A scientific-minded person finds it easier to align those ideas with what they already know. You and I, as a computer, in the past, thought by thought, action by action, have programmed ourselves, as it were, to be exactly what we are today. I am a criminal and I am a threat to the society. My actions are vulgar or unhealthy because my thoughts are foul, because my values are wrong. All this came from where? It is not that the God gave you a wrong packet and to the other guy a good packet, and therefore he is happy and lucky, but I am always thinking, you are what you were before. And since you are at this moment, programmed to behave as you are now behaving, let us say incompetent, inefficient, vulgar-minded, sensuous, lusty, greedy, passionate, that no friend remains a friend of mine more than 6 months. And is only a dull friend stays 6 months. Intelligent friends understand and smell me out in 3 months' time. They go. This is not sufficient. Swamiji, this is a very sad condition. I am always in tragedy. I know. Change it. But Swamiji, how can I change it? 2 processes. Deprogram and reprogram. Don't break the computer. Unnecessary. Poor computer is helpless. Your Jesus also has said the same, isn't it? Hate not the sinner. Hate the sin that prompts him to act in that way. It is only in the 15th century that the lady of the house got fever or bad headache. The whole community came, tied her to the nearest tree and gave her 25 slashes. By the time the 4th slash comes, by her own husband, lovingly. By the time the 4th whip comes, she lies down there and cries, I am going, I will never more come. The beating was supposed to be for the ghost that has come, the fairy that has attacked her. My wife was healthy till yesterday, suddenly today stomachache. Why? Magic. A ghost has come. Therefore, that devil is being beaten. And who receives it? Your darling honeycomb receives it. When she gets 4 or 5, her hysteria is ended. She suddenly cries out, I am going, gone. And the lady is removed and she is asked, how is your stomachache now? Much better. Gone. Why? Or else they will tie you down and repeat the medicine. If this is taken, Aspiro company will fold up. All our modern girls, always Aspiro in the bag. Why? Headache. Then that ghost has come. Let me kick the ghost. Excuse me. Within the second beating, they will say that, ghost God. Headache gone. I don't think I ever had a headache. No, this was what we were doing in the 15th century, in the Dark Ages, misunderstanding it. Later on today, nobody will say that. It is because of the germ in the system. Some of them we know, some of them we don't know. But we don't blame the patient for his disease. Even if it is cirrhosis of the liver, we know that the fellow had broken so many bottles and drank unnecessarily and unintelligently, yet we sympathize with him. Your liver is dull, that is why. We will make it all right, isn't it? We don't blame him. We blame the cause behind. As a computer, don't break the computer. Deprogram it and reprogram it intelligently. In the past, I programmed it wrongly, therefore it is misbehaving now, giving me wrong information. Thus, in the past, you put rubbish into it, garbage in, garbage out. And today, I don't know why, Swamiji. I think my father had bad temper. That is why I have got bad temper. Father has got bad temper. Mummy has got despondency. That is why I am always despondent, because my mummy always had despondency. And the modern psychiatrists, they help him also. It is all because you are unhappy family. Who had a happy family life, my dear? Unhappy family. Einstein had a happy family. Churchill had a happy family. But they had to say something for $20 an hour. And the man having paid $200 must get some answer. There you are. An unhappy family. All families are unhappy. Each family stays and says that those are happier, mine is unhappy. Very happy. No, what I meant was, it is not that we don't want to take the responsibilities upon ourselves. So then these vasanas are to be exhausted. Vasanas, hang-ups, are to be exhausted. Ordinarily, when we are working in the world outside, with our instruments of action, physical, mental and intellectual equipments, when we function in the world of objects, emotions, and in the theaters of thought, when we are functioning, meaning each one of us responding to the external stimuli, it becomes an action. A total and complete transaction with the world. A sound produced outside, it through the ears reaches my mind. Sound. And the mind cannot judge. The judging faculty is my intellect. So the mind puts it up to the intellect. Hey, what is that? The intellect, with reference to the past experiences, says, that is a motorcycle, or that is a rumbling sound, maybe the next door house must have crumbled down. Then the mind says, then what will happen? Therefore you go to the window, open the window and bring the eyes in order to take the vision. When the vision came, it was the house is standing there, and therefore the intellect says, oh, then not that house, maybe the other house. Therefore you jump out. It goes on and on. I'm just saying what? At every moment, the outer stimuli reaches us through the 5 sense organs, the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, sense organs. And the mind receives them all, puts it up to the intellect to judge. The intellect, with reference to its past experiences, judges, and the judgment of the intellect is transferred to the mind. The mind tells the muscles to act. And I respond to the external stimuli. Thus the outer world enters me through the sense organs into my mind. My intellect reacts with it, and I respond to outside. One complete transaction is over. I take some chewing gum, pay the money, he takes the money, gives me the chewing gum. One transaction is over the table. Similarly, I as an individual, when I say I, every one of you, I as an individual, and the world around, political, social, economic, financial, aesthetic, the whole world there around. And my sense organs are bringing stimuli constantly. I react and respond to it. And my responses are called my actions. When a response is over, one transaction is over. Built up by these transactions, I build my entire temple of life. Even every transaction I was getting only sorrow. My life, I say, is a tragedy. It's a tomb of my all hopes. It may be beautiful, like Taj Mahal, but it is a tomb. Even on the other hand, all experiences are bringing me peace and pleasing experience of joy and satisfaction, a sense of contentment, a sense of self-respect. I say that by God's grace, my life is a beautiful one. Why? Every brick or unit that has gone into the structure of my life is these transactions. So if I am working some office and I have no interest in it, but I dare not give it up because another job is not easily available, too much of unemployment, misery. Or you have got your organization and you are jealous of another fellow. In the mind, annoying at all times. By the time you come in the evening, you are so unhappy. You might have done things, but you cannot enjoy it. Think. Unless there is a philosophy of life, philosophy of work, work can always become only a drudgery, a tyranny, brings exhaustion, fatigue, tiredness, weariness, tension, stress and strain of modern industrial world. Stress, strain, struggle, rat race. If you analyze them all, it is not because of the world. The world never gives you even an ounce or even a teaspoonful of sorrow. It is our interpretation, our wrong contact with the world outside. So that the entire textbook is making a very scientific and elaborate thought processes and is providing it or delivering it to each one of you for your serious consideration. And if you understand it, I am not saying that tomorrow onwards you can live it. Any technique, when you know it, then you have to practice it until you become master of it. But here is a technique whereby whatever be the outer situation, when we live it in the right mental attitude towards it, there is an unearned income apart from the success in the outer world, apart from the glory of the activities that you are performing, apart from the beauty of your performance and the consequent glory, there is a great secret sense of satisfaction rising in your bosom. Your personality becomes rehabilitated. The hang-ups are down, and the mind serenades in a joyous sense of fulfillment. And as we live those years, we will be raising the quantum of this happiness and fulfillment more and more in the mind, and not tiredness, weariness. Such an individual never will think in terms of retirement. A joy that is arising in your mind, not because of the objects outside that you have gathered, in spite of their absence. The world outside, the world of objects outside becomes almost redundant. You have gained or earned or started peeping over the limitations of our present life into a new dimension of consciousness, where you are no more a beggar of happiness and joy from outside, but you start becoming the giver of joy to others, as you have discovered the very source of happiness. This is what the promise is given by all the religions, demonstrated in this chart. For the easy grasp of the students. So we said that life expresses in this world through the body, form, stones, animals, all have got a form, a shape. Then evolves itself into a body and the beginnings of a mind in the plant kingdom. In the animal kingdom, a form and a fully developed mind with all its instincts and impulses, all its animalisms. It is only in the human being there are the three full equipments: the body, the mind, and an intellect which has got the rational thinking capacity, with which an individual can, to a large extent, control, direct the instincts and impulses of the mind and come to achieve great things in the world. All great people who have achieved great things, whether it is in the outer world or in the spiritual world, all of them had the mind under their own control. Einstein, when he is in the laboratory, is not a guy whose mind wanders to sense objects. Then he can't achieve great things. Whether it is a mighty financier manipulating the money market in the world, or a great scientist, or a political thinker, an economist, in any field, literature, poet, when he is at his work, if he has not a natural capacity to quieten the mind and bring it under the control of the mind or the intellect, he cannot achieve great things. You and I fail in our life only because not lack of understanding, not a lack of a goal, but when we apply ourselves to it, we don't reach anywhere there because of the dissipation of the mind. I am telling these things to make you understand exactly what is the difference between the mind and the intellect. The ability to rationally think and determine. So the power of discrimination, the power of determination, the power of classification, the power of consistent logical thinking. All these powers are attributed to the intellect. And the mind is sentimental, emotional, and it just flows out. These are the three equipments of life in the world. Whether you are a Hindu or a Christian or a Muslim or a, Buddhist, in any, communist or socialist, believer or non-believer, in this world there are only three equipments for expression of life. That in our heart which enlivens all our activities, physical, psychological and intellectual. There are only three equipments: the equipments of the physical equipment, the psychological equipment, mind, and the intellectual equipment, the intellect. When life functions through these equipments, life itself expresses as I, the sentient, conscious perceiver with the body, perceiving the world of objects. I, the feeler who feels my emotions with my intellect. And the thinker I, the intellectual me, with my intellect, reveling in the world of thoughts. Just as electricity is one, but when it is functioning through the bulb heater and the radio, it manifests differently. Life, one and the same. When it expresses through my equipments, the BMI, when I say mind, in this world, in this entire universe, in these three equipments when it expresses, there are the different individualities, PFTs. You are different from me, I am different from her, she, you and I are different from others. This movement, the many, the plenty, each an expression of the same reality. The electricity is one, but its manifestations are many because the equipments are many. Think. 20 different bulbs and therefore 20 spots of light, but electricity is one. Life is one, but the individual entities are different from each other because of their different physical, mental and intellectual quality. Therefore the individuality, the perceiver, the feeler, the thinker, the physical, the psychological and the intellectual entities are different. And we all are living in the same world, but I perceive with my mind or with my intellect, I feel with my mind, I think with my intellect, and therefore, even though the world is one and the same, each one of us is living our own private world. Think. World is one, but in which every one of us live our own life, our own world of experience. Even if it is a father, a mother and a son, we're all together in the same house, living beautifully. Generally we consider them all happy. It's not so sure about it. The father has his own troubles, which he can't share with the mother. The mother has her own problems, which she can't explain to the father. The poor little baby, you all think that he is innocent, but don't you know that you have been all before children, before you became big? Between the mummy and daddy, the child is lying down. He is also worried, but he dare not tell it to mummy and daddy. Why? In the school, the bully has said, tomorrow come back, I will give you one. He remembers it. He has got his problem. He can't say that I'm not going to school, nor can he dare go to school. He has got his problem. The boy turns right and left. Mummy thinks that it's because of the heat or because he's hungry and things like that. It's not. The boy has got his own problem. Thus everywhere, every individual has individual, recognizes the world from his own standpoint. Now therefore, since our equipments are the same, the body, the mind, the intellect, other than that there is nothing, indriya, mana, buddhi, other than that there is no equipment. The world outside is objects, the world of emotions, love and hatredness and jealousy and greed and passion that come to me. And the world of thoughts, ideas, ideals, concepts, beliefs, non-belief, doubts, despondencies, despairs, a world of thoughts. Yet, the world is one, but each one of us respond and react to it differently. We project upon it our own interpretations, This has been observed by these subjective scientists, the great saints and sages and prophets and the rishis of yore, and try to analyze it. Why? Why is it that we are all so different from each other? The source is one. You are alive, I am alive. The plant is alive, the tree is alive. The animal is alive. I am conscious, you are conscious. All of us are conscious. I hope I am right. All of us are continuously conscious. The plant is conscious, but its field may be small, never mind. The animal is conscious. The dead body, when we say it is dead, it is conscious of nothing. So this consciousness life, when it is there, this wonderful life in the world with seething achievements and greatness and glory, all are there. If life were to go from me, next sentence will not come. If any one of us, that individual's all activities, however great or noble he may be, ended. If life were to go from the world, if we can remove it, all fall down, perish within a few hours or days, and this planet will be considered as dead planet. So whether it is a political development or economic development or social development, technological development, you may call it whatever you like, but for our unnecessary vanity, when you analyze it deeply, fundamentally they are all nothing but the expression of this mysterious thing called life. What it is we don't know. It is precious to every one of us. Nobody is ready to die. Everyone will struggle hard with every tooth and nail in order to preserve himself. This is found in at all levels of life. It is the most precious. It is to bring some comfort and joy to it that all our attempts, physical, mental and intellectual, all our efforts from birth to death of all living beings, plant, animal and human. These are known facts, but I am presenting it for your consideration. So the great masters started analyzing, wanting to know, what is this spark of life in me? When it is there, I am what I am. When it is not there, I am rubbed out of the world. If it is there, art and literature and politics and economics and progress, everything is explained. Continues. The vivacious world dynamically dances through the march of progress, admitted. What is this? Whose expression is all these? That essence which we don't know at this moment, but which we can, when you pause for a moment and start thinking, we can infer that there is something more than mere dead inert matter in us. That essence they indicated, since they don't know it, by a sound symbol Om. So life, call it as God. After having called it as God, consider it as Jesus or Father in heaven, Allah, Buddha state. Peace, there is no contradiction. You may call it by whatever name. In all religions, the God is that by whose grace the enlivener of everything, by whose grace everything is going on. So in religion, this is indicated by the word God. In philosophy, it is called as a reality or truth, the pure being. So various masters call it by different names. The self, and therefore self-realization. They say God, God-realization. They say that it is the reality, the one who has realized. Words, words, words. Here we are not we are not trying to understand or the quarrel on the words. We are trying to understand what the words stand for. What the word stands for is something other than the word. Swami Chinmayananda is my name. But I am certainly something other than the word Chinmayananda. If you say, no, the name is the word, if you say, Hare Krishna, anybody can write on a piece of paper Swami Chinmayananda and put it in the pocket and go about saying that Swami is in my pocket. How can it be? See that if you have got a doubt to read, Chinmayananda, in my pocket. Isn't it? Or that name, that paper in that name, if it burns, I must be burning. That name is not me, but the name indicates me. If the name is a thing, no sales will be ever available, no market is necessary, no trading is possible, isn't it? Whenever I want apple, I write apple. Hey, the name apple is apple. Apple is a fruit. And that fruit is indicated by the sound symbol, apple. H2O, water, is indicated by the word water. Pani, jalam, aqua pura. Various words in various traditions or languages. Thereby the thing doesn't become many. This one essence, the spark of life in our bosom, the play of consciousness, the spring of existence in our bosom, which enlivens all of our activities, physical, mental and intellectual. They called it as the one life ever present everywhere in all of us as Om. The consciousness, when it expresses through the body, mind and intellect, there is the expression of you and I, the sentient, intelligent, emotional individuality, you, whom we express as I, and I, the PFT thereafter, tries my level best in all through my life, every individuality tries all through their life to gain, to experience a complete satisfaction, a total sense of fulfillment, a joyous, a state of happiness from OET, the outer world of objects, emotions and thoughts, through the equipments, the body, the mind, the intellect. This is the autobiography of everybody. I come here to talk because I find a happiness in it. You came the second day also to hear because there is a little happiness you got yesterday and you want it. Everyone, plant, animal and human, is constantly striving to find satisfaction or happiness. Revolt against pain and reaching out for happiness or joy is the very direction of the whole evolutionary march. This PFT, the individuality, you and I, is struggling hard to find happiness, total happiness, complete satisfaction through acquiring objects or enjoying emotions or in indulging and serving and working in the field of thoughts. The great teacher said, no PFT, no individual personality can ever find total happiness from the outer world through their equipments. The materialistic West will be shocked by such a statement, because the hypothesis is that if you have got more and more and more of objects, the individual will be more and more happy. Which is really, the West has understood, is wrong, because in their economics there is the theory and the law of diminishing utility. We know it. When the first orange, when you take, object, when you are hungry, first orange, beautiful, happy, 80 units of happiness I got. I am your real sincere friend. So I say that, come on, let you have one more. Why? Because you enjoyed it so well. Have a second one, third one, fourth one, 10th one, 20th one, 30th. Orange. You start protesting. But you being what you are, you said, all right, to oblige you, I will take the 30th also. Now when it comes to the 40th, you protest and you want to run away. I call my neighbors and say, please help me. I want to satisfy my friend. That is why, please hold his hands and legs. And I start opening up the orange, putting it in the mouth, and with a stick, pushing it in. I mean, by the time it comes to 60th or the 80th, I am sure, it is an agony. So the first orange can give you happiness, second less, third still less, fifth a sorrow, 10th an agony, 60th death. The same object. I am not saying that you must not have objects. Certainly we must have objects. The mere multiplication of it can never give you happiness. So then this phenomena, what you call as the diminishing utility, the law of diminishing utility, the subjective scientists analyzed and tried to find out why. If 1 unit can give me happiness, it is sheer arithmetics, that 10 units must give me 10 times happiness. It is not so, because not that the object has changed. The 10th orange or the 50th orange is also orange. But alas, the enjoyer, me, I have changed. Each time when one orange goes in, I change. My body before was minus oranges, then it became plus orange, then plus 2 orange, plus 3 orange, plus 4 orange. The equipment changed. And therefore, the same object cannot give me that much of happiness. The teachers concluded, no living being, individuality, can find total happiness from OET through BMI, because all these are in the realm of Einsteinian world of time. Time constantly changes. These are all conditioned by time, time, space, quantum. Since our equipments are playing in the field of time, and time is constantly changing, every one of us is constantly changing. In the midst of change, the individuality is expecting, hoping for, reaching out, striving unnecessarily. What? For a permanent, changeless, constant state of happiness. This is impossible. impossible. You know that your body is changing, has changed. You came into this world as a baby, now you are a 6-footer. The body has changed. The body changes, healthy, unhealthy. You know that your mind is changing. Things you loved 4 years ago, now you hate. Things you hated before, now you start loving. It is the nature of the human mind. It is not your fault or my fault. Similarly, the intellect is constantly changing. Consciously through studies, thinking, reflections, and unconsciously by the smothering beatings from the outer world, you change your values slowly. Is it not? Not only the equipments are constantly changing, the world outside is constantly, kaleidoscopically changing. Objects and their arrangements are changing. Emotions that others give to you are changing. The world of thoughts in which we are living are constantly changing. 15th century thoughts, 17th century, 18th century, 19th century, 20th century, is it not? The thoughts are constantly changing. The atmosphere, the module of thoughts or atmosphere in which we live are the values, ideas, concepts, faiths, beliefs are constantly changing. In this realm of constant change, you and I are expecting a perfect harmony so that I can have peace and happiness and satisfaction. This is impossible. So the teacher said that the individual, if he is seeking that happiness, he will have to go beyond the realm of time, the timeless, which religion calls as the immortal, eternal, changeless, immutable. All religions are same words. I'm not talking of Hinduism at this juncture. Eternal, immutable, changeless, permanent, the real. Meaning, not in the realm of time, that is all. I have to awake to a new dimension of consciousness. There is no other way. When I try to do so, I find that I am caught up in a web, that it is impossible for me to cross over the mighty powers of the physical, mental and intellectual compulsions. I can't even get a peace, a moment's rest or peace. All the time, I am being whipped up into activity by my own body, mind and intellect. The lusts of the body, when it rises and the body wants it, you and I have no strength to say no to our body. We have to struggle hard and get it for the body. Similarly, the mind says something and a passion rises, we have no control over it. When the intellect is a little disturbed, confused or restless, we are restless. At this juncture, we are a slave to the body, mind and intellect. We are bound by the dictates of the body, mind and intellect. And the great religions of the world, the Bible, the Quran, the Brahmapada, the Buddhists, the Zendavesta, or the Zoroastrian, all religious textbooks, Gita, Upanishads, all of them are telling how to release myself, liberate myself from this plane of consciousness, liberate from the thraldom, tyranny of matter, and reach out into the higher states of spirituality. This is what we are trying. Every religion or scriptural textbook is pointing out this escape, this awakening, this inner growth, this inner unfoldment. a greater insight into your own life, your own being, your birthright. Then why not all of us, one Sunday sit down after breakfast, before lunch, realize, wake up, after all, I thought that God is above the clouds so far away that to make the pilgrimage, I don't know the road, and therefore I could not reach Him, my son. If He is already a spark of existence in myself, it is a state of consciousness. How far should I go? The dreamer should go in search of the waker. How far is the deep sleeper from the waker? He is there itself. It is different planes of consciousness. Thus, if Swamiji, you say that it is only a plane of consciousness, let us go. Why not go beyond it? It is only when we try to put forth our effort and try to go beyond it, we suddenly realize that this is not so easy. The equipments are very powerful, extremely powerful, though we are allowed by courtesy to call it as our own. Every one of you will say that it is my body, isn't it? Not this, your own body. You call it as my body. I am unhappy. Why? My mind is unhappy. My mind. So my body, my mind. Similarly, my intellect cannot grasp what you are talking. My intellect. There also is my. You are allowed to call it as my. But really speaking, they are the masters and we belong to them at this moment. See? The vehicles are more powerful than the owner, poor man. And the owner cannot reach where he wants to reach because the vehicle decides where you should go. This is what we call as skidding in the car. In the modern times, we don't use the horses and therefore it is skidding. You are going northbound. You are moving northbound. And the car decides to go southeast. For no fault of you, it's called skidding. And when once the car skids, you will be lucky if you don't reach free the nearest hospital. Because you may be broken down and lying down and others will have to carry you. If every one of us does in the world from birth to death, we are living the skidding on these equipments in life's passage. I bump on you, you bump on me. And you can't blame anybody. I am sorry, I have no control. I have no control. Thus everybody is skidding everywhere, all over. And life's vehicle has got wheels on all the four sides and therefore, in whatever position you fall, again it moves on in that direction. And you say that there is no peace in the world. What can UNO do? What can politicians do? Economic development, what can it do? Underdeveloped countries also peaceless. Developing nations, terribly restless. Developed nations, absolutely restless. So that when you see all these, you see, really speaking, you get confused. And we want some satisfaction. We want to scream at somebody. And therefore the unintelligent screams at a hypothetical God above the clouds, who is the manufacturer of the world. And you cry out, you manufacturing company, you have got a monopoly of manufacturing and you are doing it this kind of a third-rate world you are creating. Oh God, you are the cause for it. Analyze. These rich rishis are subjective thinkers. The scientists, they did not jump into conclusions. They watch, observe. From the known to the unknown, is the direction of all scientific development and scientific discoveries. So they said, okay, if this be so, what could be the reason for it? They found that in the depth of psychology, in the deepest depth of our psychological personality, there is a layer indicated here by the letter V. The V stands for the word Vasana, V-A-S-A-N-A. It is a Greek word, Vasana. Why I said Greek word is especially for the Indians. Because the moment you say that it's a Sanskrit word, you are frightened. Greek word, you will swallow it. Why? Scientific. Oh, it's a Greek word. Greek also you don't know, Sanskrit also you don't know. But with Greek you are a nodding acquaintance, or you allow her to play Sanskrit frightened. Vasana, V-A-S-A-N-A. This Vasana level, I cannot explain it in English because the modern psychology in the West has not gone into those depths yet. They are only playing about with a conscious mind below a subconscious mind layer, and still below, recently about 14 years ago, very grudgingly they have accepted a still deeper level, and they called it and labeled it as unconscious, so that no other scientist or psychologist will ever go deeper into it. Because even this is unconscious, so what can... So conscious mind, subconscious mind, the unconscious mind. These are the upper levels. What we are talking is the bottommost level, which conditions, causes, regulates, controls all activities of the mind, all through its towering heights. They are called the unmanifest in Sanskrit. In our literature, avyakta, unmanifest. And it is these unmanifest impulses, let us say, instincts, or call it as tendencies, they are in us, and each one of us is trying to express it out and exhaust them. The tendencies, when I say, those who are doctors or engineers here, can you give me one logical, acceptable reason why you took that in your educational career? As you entered the college, what made you take medicine? Why didn't you take commerce or engineering? Some takes arts, others take science. One wants this only, nothing else. Now if you ask them, really speaking, they have got no reason. They say that, I don't know, but I wanted to take medicine. What did you know of medicine at that time? I didn't know. If you don't know, how can you desire it? That I don't know. Then what did you take it? Why don't you take that? Is it a chance? Is it not a compulsion from within yourself? That you told your people that nothing else will satisfy me, I want this and this and this alone? And at that time, what knowledge you had? Except you saw some doctors. Really speaking, there is an inner compulsion, a tendency. Certain children from childhood onwards, a tendency to sing. Others to paint. Some people have got the tendency to cheat, to steal. Hey, not only good, bad also. Some have got a tendency to be sensuous. Some is already a tendency to live in the barest minimum. a master of himself and his situations. Now all these things you can't say why, there is the tendency. When you analyze the tendencies, you find, or the teachers explained, that these tendencies are created in us, thought by thought, action by action in our past. That seems to be quite acceptable with my limited laboratory experiences available for me to check up. I am not asking you to believe it, but when I check up with my own life, the limited quantum that is available for me, that I have become a smoker. And if you go back and find its genesis, first I thought of it, then my uncle used to smoke, I used to go and sit down and watch. Thought, not bad. Then I grew up. As I was grown up, I was reading. As I am reading Sherlock Holmes and other things, I find that whenever the detective is in trouble and problem comes, he draws a chair near the fireplace, lights up his pipe, and rings of smoke goes, and through the rings he gets the answer for the problem. So when I get problems, I say that let me also look into the slowly, thought by thought. And the first smoking was always a cough. Yet a pride that I have now grown up and I've started second, third, fourth, fifth. Then you start hanging around others who are smoking and borrowing and smoking. Slowly, you start your own smoking. Today, 10 minutes you can't remain without smoking. How did it happen? A drunkard, how did it happen? Is it not by thought, action by action? Today we are what we are is that some total cumulative, some total thought and actions of the past recorded in us as these channels of thinking, the tendencies. Tendencies are very subtle. It is not manifest, it is yet to manifest. It is something like the unmanifest flower potential in a flowering bush. The flowers are there in a potential form, not yet manifested. And when the conducive circumstance comes of the springtime, the flowers burst forth. In the same way, these tendencies, the teacher said, are coming out through us into expression. And that is our life, the way of life, the lifestyle of each individual, ordered by, controlled by, governed by, determined by these tendencies in each one of us. It is subjective. Please, it is not in the board. The board is only a convenience to communicate. It cannot be in my face. You yourself analyze your own life. Then you understand it. Not from books, but your own intuitive understanding. I don't want you to accept it just because I said it. Please. What I am saying, even if you deny it or reject it, it doesn't matter to me at all, because I am not trying to sell to you my own ideas. It is all the ideas that for thousands of years our forefathers have all accepted, acknowledged and confirmed to be true. Why should we accept the old people, all of them? They were all fools. They don't know the modern scientific method. We only have the computer age. You're right. I don't mind. If you accept that, all our grandfathers were fools and grandfathers were idiots, fathers were stupid, and we the fourth generation. Think, scientifically think please. We then cannot but be an improvement upon them. Greater fools, greater idiots, greater. It cannot be that our generation is suddenly wise. From a mango seed, a coconut tree cannot come. Think. The genes. So if our great-grandfather was a fool, fathers were fool, grandfathers were idiots, fathers were stupid, you can only be a more intensified all those traits in you. How can you be wise? It is easy in our vanity to wipe off all the past. I don't say that the past had no weaknesses, just as our age also has got its own weaknesses. What we are trying to say is that the past, all these generations after generations, it is not anything novel and new that is being given, but it is the heritage of man, handed down from generation to generation, confirmed, again and again reconfirmed. They said that these vasanas or tendencies go on manifesting through us. When thus a bud potential flower emerges out, it doesn't emerge out all of a sudden as a flower. It first emerges as a protuberance, then slowly it takes the shape of a bud, and the bud in weeks slowly opens, and then alone it becomes a real bloom. In the same way, when a vasana manifests, the subtle subjective scientists analyzed and found that the vasana first explodes in the subtlest realm of our personality, the intellect, and in the intellect it expresses as a desire. Take your own time. There's nothing wrong. Take your own time until you get it. These fundamentals, when it is fixed up, the subject matter becomes very easy. Think. Desires are in every one of us. There is nobody in this hall who has no desires. Desires end only in the burial ground. It is our privilege to maintain desires. Even though there's all of us have got desires, it's not the same desire. One wants a factory, another wants a house, another wants a motorcycle. Is it not? Why is it that you are desiring factory, factory, factory only? Nothing else will satisfy you. To the drunkard, drinks alone, hot drinks alone will satisfy. One who takes coffee, coffee alone satisfies. To those who are taking tea, tea is much better than coffee. Think. The desire is an expression of his vasanas. He has a tendency for factory. Another has a tendency for the house. A third youngster wants a motorcycle which makes the maximum noise. See? And I want an ashram. Thus, desires arising in our bosom are all expressions of the various vasanas, type of vasanas that we have got. Think carefully. So the vasana, when it expresses the intellectual level, becomes a desire. That desire, which is vasana, when it grossifies and expresses at our mental theatre, The very desire in us becomes mental agitations. Is it not? All of us have got mental agitations. Everybody wants a little peace. Instead of next time when the agitations arise, you look within a little more intelligently, like a doctor looking at the patient with a certain amount of scientific detachment. Watch, I am restless, admit it, but for what? Why? When you analyze it, you will always discover in your own life that the agitations of the mind are nothing but created by the most powerful desire in our intellect. So then the poor factory man, his agitations will be the desire, agitations for a factory, how to make it, where to start, how to start afloat a company, and how to get the raw material. That is all that he is thinking day and night. The poor girl lady who wants a house, she is worried about the house. The youngster, the irresponsible youngster, motorcycle. How can I get a motorcycle? And the poor Swami, sleepless nights. Why? How to build an ashram. Where is that man who has got more money than brains, who will build an ashram and give it to me, for me to work? You understand what I meant was that each one. Now when I am told that he is worried, you are worried, you come and tell me, Swamiji, I am very much worried, restless, I can't sleep at all. What is your worry? About that factory. Hey, give it up. It is very easy for me to advise him to give it up and laugh at the stupid idea that you are working and worried about. But he can also turn back and tell me, Swamiji, why are you worried about an ashram? Leave it up. God knows how to run the whole show. Why are you worried? Before you came also there was a world, isn't it? After your death we will bury you and then there will be world continues. Why are you worried? That is right, but I am worried. Everyone think of your own. I am just giving you one example. So the desire in you, when it expressed at the mental level, are called agitations of the mind. The agitations and restlessnesses of the mind, when expressed at the physical level, becomes the various actions or activities, isn't it? As you are peacefully sitting down and reading a book, suddenly a desire came. Hey, why not a cup of coffee? Why? You are a South Indian, coffee vasana. Or an American, whatever it is, coffee vasana. And why not a coffee? It's just a thought, coffee, a desire. And now you say, shut up, I am going to read now. Do you think that you can read? Mind has started agitating. Mind is so agitated that any amount of reading of that one paragraph, you cannot understand anything. Why? Mind is smelling coffee, feeling the tickling of the tongue coffee. Mind is hearing the sound of the cup and the saucer. Mind has got no accommodation for any other creative thinking except coffee, 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 coffee. What can you do? Push the chair back. You go on. Where are you going? Directly to the spot where physically I act as ordered by my agitation. For what? To get some peace of mind. You go and get your cup of coffee and you are returning. Even while you are returning, you have started thinking of what you have been doing. Why? The mind has become calm. Coffee has got it. So the agitation is meaningless now. Very often you get the coffee and keep it on the table and start the work. And you get so plunged into the work that you forget the coffee. And at the end of it, that dead coffee, you always drink because after all we have paid for it. You know, we have not the courage to throw it away. This is the garbage can. Put it there. How often have you done cigarette? You light a cigarette and keep it there and start writing. The whole thing becomes a long piece of ash. You have not thought of it at all. It is a desire. Desire brings about mental agitations. Agitations determine the actions. If the vasanas are good, the desires are noble, therefore the thoughts are gracious, naturally your actions are beautiful, quality. But if it so happens that my tendencies are rather bad, crooked, hey, it is not my fault now. It is an error of judgment of the past, wrong tendencies. Then criminal desires, vulgar thoughts, and unholy activities, is it not? Then you say that he is a saintly person and that is a wicked sinner. From the quality and texture of his performance. But the poor man is helpless. The saint is as helpless as the sinner. Because both of them are expressions of his own tendencies. Not only in quality, but also in quantity. If you have got too many vasanas, too many desires, I want that and that and that and that also, and if possible, those things also. Each desire must bring out agitations. So the mind is constantly in a whirlpool of agitations. In order to find some peace for the mind, the poor man goes out and works 18 hours a day, 7 days of the week. For what? You ask that man, why are you creating all this? I don't know, Swamiji. Without that, I get an idea. And when I get an idea, I must work it. If I don't work it, I am restless. And extremely exhausting himself, extreme busy life, because he has got so much of agitations. Why? So many desires to be fulfilled. If the vasanas are less, desires become less. So naturally, agitations become less. Therefore, less of desire-prompted activities. Don't say less of activities. Less of desire-prompted activities or agitation-whipped up activities. The individual start doing, of course he tries to fulfill his desires, plus the rest of his energy he start doing it selflessly, without any selfish desires, service of others. If the vasana is minimum in a human personality, minimum desires, therefore minimum agitations, therefore minimum selfish desire-prompted activities. Supposing there is an individual who has no vasanas at all, who in himself has cleansed all vasanas, no desire, no vasanas, therefore no desires, therefore no agitation, therefore from him not a single act of selfishness. Is it not such a man whom the world calls as a prophet, a saint, a sage? Is it justified? You ask yourself. When does the intellect and the mind has no thoughts, neither desires nor agitations, their function is ended. Just as the flower, when it is fertilized, the petals and their beauty and fragrance, the function is ended, and therefore they crumble and fall off for the fruit to emerge out. In the same way, when the mind and intellect's functions ended, the I who thought myself to be conditioned by my mind and intellect, I, from my PFT egocentric state of consciousness, I awake into the universal state of the one infinite consciousness, divine. And therefore such masters who have reached there, they alone functions in the world outside, unbit by the poisonous desires, sense gratification, or personal selfish desires, with no agitations of the mind, peacefully, joyously, they serve the society. Such people who have thus awakened to the higher, awakened, using the word in Vedanta uses because of their knowledge, very carefully. I, as a dreamer in the dream world, was suffering. Then I, the dreamer, wakes up. When the dreamer I rediscovers that I am the waker, in the waking state of consciousness, none of the sorrows of the dream can reach. I am the same. In the dream I thought that I am in the sorrow. Then when I woke up and I rediscovered that I who was a dreamer am nothing but the waker. The dream was only a disturbance in me. The dreamer and the dreamer's world, the dream, have all, as it were, merged into the waker state of consciousness. From the egocentric state of consciousness in which we are at this moment, such an individual, on withering away of the mind and intellect, transcends, is the technological term, moves beyond, goes beyond a time, to experience that I who thought myself to be the limited, am myself the unlimited, the timeless, the changeless, the immutable, the eternal. In order to bring about this unfoldment in each one of us, the vision of the grandeur and vision of the greater and the larger state of our own existence, being, the obstruction that stands and blocks it are all the vasanas. Because of the vasanas, the mind and intellect is constantly in a state of agitation. Desire after desire gurgles, and agitation after agitations are rising up in the stormy confusion of the mind and intellect. I am not able to recognize for myself, recognize myself, perceive it, experience that which lies behind the mind. And the mind and intellect are agitated, not by itself, not by themselves, but because of the ticklings of the vasanas. All methods of exhausting the vasanas are spiritual paths, are all paths that lead you on to the higher state of consciousness, helps you to wake up into the higher plane. And the teachers or masters started contemplating thereafter the technology by which this flight can be organized. The flight is impossible, from the gliding from this state of consciousness to the higher is impossible so long as the mind and intellect is loaded with its own vasanas and therefore constantly in a state of agitation. How are we to remove the vasanas? It is here that they found that no doubt from birth to death, the BMI and the OET are in constant confrontation. You and your world around is in constant confrontation. The sense organs bring the sense stimuli. The world outside will bring emotional stimuli to my mind. And I am living in a buzzing world of ideas and thoughts, which the body, mind and intellect must respond to. In all these confrontations, physical, mental and intellectual confrontations with the world outside, the teachers found, if we are acting or working in the world outside with the ego and egocentric selfish desires, ego meaning the sense of I, desire meaning I want, that I am at this moment incomplete and I want my neighbor's wife, the other neighbor's property, this man's that thing, or this object or that object, when you have got a sense of limitation in you. We try to make it complete, everyone. Thus, with ego, with a sense of I, and egocentric desires, the selfish desires, when I thus function in the world outside, alas, and that is the way we all function. I and I want. Then anxiety, worry, excitement, exhaustion, fatigue, disappointment, dejections arise. When in that mood when we work on, alas, more and more vasanas are created. On the other hand, when we confront with the world outside, all our activities are not centered with ego and selfish desires, but without ego, without the sense of selfish desires, if we can function, in all those activities, the existing vasanas get exhausted without creating any new vasanas. A modern young man, in his immaturity of thinking, jumps into the conclusion, this is impossible, Swami. It is impossible. How can I work in the world without the sense of I? The sense of motivation, the desire to reach something. You are right. When the army is moving, in the front I mean, and the soldiers have already walked, let us say 18 miles with full pack, 18 miles, 12 miles and a full pack, up a climb, and they have already collapsed, they are tired. At that time, the sergeant gets a phone call, a call from the headquarters, and he says, immediately move your small group, company, southeast, and move about minimum 4 to 5 miles. Because you are lying down in the line in which the enemies are arriving. This information you have not got, headquarters have got it. Now, the poor man, the man here in charge cannot phone up the headquarters and say that, sorry, our boys are completely exhausted. So in such situations, when they are completely exhausted, they order a double ram to everyone. Raw ram, double ram they take. Within a short time, all are up, ready to work. Why? A reserve energy that is in your mind is released. But after reaching that 5 miles or 10 miles more, when second time they collapse, even if the enemy were to come there, they will say hi. Why? They just can't move. Nature will take its toll. They have to stay there for days together before they can revive. Whatever reserve energy that is kept there by nature is also used. There is no other go. In the same way, my friend, the ego and selfishness are like a ram. No doubt it can take out of you a lot, but it is for a short time. And thereafter there is such a rebound and a reaction that there is despair, despondency, desistance. On the other hand, you may not accept it. I don't expect you to accept it. But keep it in your mind. On the other hand, one who is working without ego and selfishness means what? Imagine in your mind. Find out the moments when you were not there and you had no desires. Those are moments what we in our community we call it as inspired work. Is it not? All masterpieces in art and literature, all great moments of explosive discoveries in science are all vivid examples of this inspired activity. I mean, these may not be within your life, within your band of your experience, but sometimes a teenager writes a letter to his beloved. That love letter he writes like a poetry. And he reads, he himself is appreciating it. And he reads a copy of it to his friend. No, I have written to her like this. And the friend appreciates, you cannot but. Hey, you write beautifully. Why don't you write half a dozen of this kind of letter for me to try on my girl? He says, what are you talking? Don't tell me that I wrote it. I did not. Then who wrote it? That way I wrote it, but I tell you, it is not I who wrote it. I don't know whether you have experienced some action. I'm saying not every day. That report, it just came through me, I tell you. I don't know. Second time I can't repeat. As though it is not I who did it. Cookie. Certain days you cook a thing. Hi, all your children and the father of the children, everybody. Today is a heavenly, what beautiful cooking. Next day, just the opposite. What to do? I was not in a mood. Where is the mood gone? Second day when you are doing, you are more egoistic, isn't it? You are self-conscious. Yesterday they enjoyed it, so today you must enjoy. I don't think they will enjoy. I am not in that mood. I think I am made of it. I. Yesterday, how did it become that? I just forgot. I was just with that act only. I identified with that act. I forgot myself. I rose unconsciously above myself. Without ego and egocentric desires, when you act on, the Lord functions through you. Inspired activities are moments when you outshine your own abilities. The Arab sheikhs come very often in all our countries, visitors, and they see an art piece, masterpiece. And the the guide has brought him there to show him the masterpiece. He looks at it. Oh. Good. Who is the artist? Because the Arab has no sense of art or... He is thinking of only the area of my wall that will be covered by it. Like that, how many walls I have got it? 6 walls. Good. Where is the artist? So the artist, poor man, comes, disheveled. How much? That is not for sale. Because a masterpiece, a master will never give in his lifetime. He may starve in the streets or in the gutters, but he will not sell his masterpiece. Because those are moments when you look at the picture, he is transported to moments when there is no ego or selfishness. He feels that thrill and joy of doing that work. The Arab will never understand it. Say your price, my dear man. Take it. 1,000? 5,000? 7? 10? And the traveling, the guide is almost swooning. He is pulling a chair and sitting down because he can't stand the sight of 10,000 for that piece of work. And then comes the last blow. He says, and please, my dear artist, make 6 of them, because I've got 6 girls in my harem and everybody has got separate houses. So 6 of them. It is then that the artist takes the furniture and starts running after him to destroy his head. Saying that, rascal, get out of this place. You are neither an artist or anything. You know nothing about it, and I am not going to sell it. You understand? 6 copies, it is not a photography that you can take copies like that. Masterpiece copies are never taken. Even the man who did it cannot do second time. He says, at that time, I was in a different state altogether. I did not do it. I was holding the brush, no doubt, but it is, I don't know who did it, but I saw it being done. I was one with my theme. The performance was not me. Right? But is it possible to eliminate the ego and the desires? Yes, all of us are doing it. Wherever and whenever we have already discovered an altar of reverence or devotion or love, any altar. Can anybody would ever say, or will ever say, that I have fallen in love with Mary? Why? Oh, you don't know. She is the daughter of so-and-so. So what? You don't know. He is a multi-millionaire. So what? My dear man, she is the only child of that multi-millionaire. Therefore, I have fallen in love. That is not love. Everybody knows, isn't it? When I say I am in love, I don't want to take anything from the beloved. All that I want is to only pour myself out there. At that altar of my love, whether it's a country, a science, an idea, a person, where I've got love, there I want only to pour out. There at that altar I don't feel my ego, nor any selfish desire. when in love of the Lord or your ideal, whatever it is. Science is my beloved. My profession is my beloved. My art, my literature. One ideal must be unavoidable. If you want to pump out from you the untouched, untapped resources in yourself, there is no other way but to have an ideal to hold on. If you've got the time, read the life history of some 4 or 5 great men who have lived before. 4 or 5, all right, 3. You will find all of them were born as an ordinary human being. There's nothing special about them. They lived like that up to the age of 20 or even 30. Suddenly they got an ideal to hold on. Their entire old life is ended. A metamorphosis takes place in him. Out of the shell of the ugly shell of yesterday hatches out a mighty, vigorous man of achievement. If you want to live only third-rate life, chewing gum, and some Coca-Cola, and an ice cream, this is the maximum altar. But when you got an ideal, whether we reach the ideal or not is a secondary thing. When you are reaching out to the ideal, we transform. When does the individual in devotion surrenders unto him and surrenders unto him not the hands and legs. That is what is happening in India now. Everybody is spiritual. What are you doing? Nothing, Swamiji. Full-time spirituality. Oh. What have you surrendered? Hands and legs. Surrender to the Lord. And the mind and intellect in sensuous field. It is. What is to be surrendered to him is your ego, your individuality. I do. And I want. Let the whole world perish. What do I care? My desires must be fulfilled. Surrender both the ego and your desires and think of it. And ask him to function through. Where thus in devotion, surrendering the ego and egocentric desires at the altar of the Lord, and when you act on in the world outside, fulfilling your duties, the existing vasanas get exhausted. Carefully think. When the vasanas are exhausting, the pressure of vasana on them and I is reduced. Is it not? And when the pressure of vasana on M and I reduced means less desires, less agitations. Have you ever thought of it? You can have desires only for objects, emotions and thoughts, the outer world. To possess, to aggrandize more and more objects. When those desires are there, the mind is agitated. Agitation also for not getting the things that you desire. Thus the mental and intellectual dynamism, carefully, take time. I don't want you to hear and accept it. Your mental and intellectual attention potential gets constantly dissipated into the world of OET under the pressures of vasanas. When the vasanas are reduced, the pressure of vasana on M and I is reduced. The dissipation of the attention potential in the world of OET is curtailed. The attention of the mind and intellect in its potentiality gets conserved in the mind and intellect. such a mind and intellect, fully surcharged with its own attentiveness. Not anything else. It's attentiveness. Is a mighty power that assures you success. You may apply such a mind in the outer world and success in the outer world. If you apply it in the greater, higher world, success in the spiritual world. Such a mind and intellect, which is minimum or very little pressurized by vasanas, and therefore has grown more alert and quiet. Relatively I am talking, just as your mind is now. You are quiet-tended, but at the same time you are not sleeping. Alert. Alert and quiet mind. Once you hear it, you understand. When you hear a scandal, even though the other man has told you the story half an hour, continuously he was talking to you, a scandal. At the end of it, when he has gone, you can repeat the whole thing. You have heard it only once. What a genius. You can repeat it same to another individual. You can even add new original frills to it. Is it? Why? When you are there, you are interested. Therefore you kept, oh, I see. So interested. The mind was attentive. Once heard, you understood it. You take a book and the textbook and try to read it. Unfortunately, I have no concentration. No, I get dull with it. I can't understand anything. It is all because of the mental agitations. Where the vasanas have reduced, the mind until it becomes relatively quiet. Quieter the mind, greater the contemplativeness. Contemplativeness means even a subtle idea you suddenly understand. Sensitive the mind becomes. With such a contemplative mind alone, meditation is possible, and therefore many people disappoint themselves that they are not able to progress in meditation. It's only because they don't try to purify the mind. The word purification is the word used in all the scriptures. Pray with a pure heart. In religious literature, when they call heart, they mean mind and intellect, M and I together. Heart. With a pure heart means is quiet and alert. In order to bring about that quietude and alertness in the mind of Arjuna, for his great achievement, whether it be in the outer world or the inner world of spirituality, he must first bring the mind to a quiet. Mind cannot be quiet in us because of the vasana load that we have. How are we to remove them? Is the path of karma yoga, the path of action, path of service. Do all your duties in the outer world, surrendering your ego and egocentric desires at the altar of your love and devotion. You shall find day by day, as years and months roll away, a certain sensitiveness coming into the mind, making you more and more contemplative. And you start the pilgrimage on the path of meditation. This karma yoga is there's a topic of the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And tomorrow onwards, we now start the text. As I start the text, we shall have many, many occasions to prove to you that this chart is not my personal bluff. And this is not only in Hinduism, in all scriptures, these fundamentals are the same. Their approaches may be different, but the fundamentals are the same. I shall have many occasions to refer to the chart. And once this chart has come in your mind, it is easy to hold on the entire thought of the chapter as an intrinsic whole. And a knowledge with intrinsic whole knowledge is called a philosophy, the philosophy of work. How while living your normal life in the world, we grow inwardly into new dimensions of spiritual unfoldment within ourselves. So tomorrow onwards we start taking class. When Gita is taken, I expect every one of you must have the book in your hand. That is the method of study of the scriptures. In the church, the Bible is with you there. In Quran, the same thing. In Hindu studies also, we insist upon the textbook. It is only because their attention will be more centered in it.
Venkadesam nanato nanada sada Venkadesam smarami smarami Hare